10th of April 2024. You're live on Orange 107.9 FM. This is the Women Lately Show. Conversations worth having. Indeed, I have another conversation worth having. I'm going to introduce a person soon. But I hope your Wednesday is going well. I hope April is treating you real good. If you're listening live on Orange 107.9, welcome. If you're watching us on Facebook, welcome. We are going to be talking to our standout woman for season 5 of the Women Lately show. And before I get in there, I just need you to know that I'm having this show with you. So post your comments in real time. Ask your questions if you have any. And I'll read them in real time and then we can interact. If you want to join the discussion on WhatsApp, you can do that on 0548-501-584. My name, as always, Francisca Taylor. This is episode 9 of the Women Lately show. And with me in the studio, I don't know how to introduce you. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Someone says we look alike. Please, if you're watching on Facebook, look. Do we look alike? Good afternoon to you, Reverend Akua.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon to you. How are you, Franca?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yes, this is the only time.
I know, right?
The only time we can hang out is when everybody's watching.
When everybody's watching, yes.
Good to see you. It's been quite a while.
Yeah, at least a year since we saw each other.
It's over a year.
It's been over a year. Oh dear, I feel like a terrible friend. But you know, I
It's
love
life.
you in my heart.
Life happens. I get it. Life happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, listeners, every season we have what we call the standout woman. And the standout woman for the season is the woman that we have identified and we believe she's doing something major and something amazing that people should know of. And so you happen to be our standout woman for season 5. And as I always do, I'm going to let you introduce yourself to my listeners. Tell us as little or as much as you want us to know before we start the conversation.
Okay, so I'm Reverend Akua. I'm an Anglican priest. I'm on radio as well. I'm on the Asasi. I'm on Asasi radio. So I'm on in the mornings at 5 a.m. I'm a mom, and I love you, Franca. You're like one of my bestest, oldest friends.
I know.
So it's great to be on your show, finally. I know. You know, I remember us talking about this show, and I thought I'd be one of the first guests, but here we are.
I know. After 5 seasons or 4 seasons. Akua, you're one of the people who motivated me to take on radio. Yes. And I actually recall coming here with you,
yes, I remember.
In the early stages of the development of this show. It's been an amazing journey. I've done 2 years on radio.
Wow.
Yes, just this past March.
2 years ago, we were walking in this mall.
Yeah.
Buying makeup.
You have to tell them.
Yes.
So I met you in, do you remember, 2012, I think?
Yeah. Maybe
before.
2010 or 20... No. Yeah, 2012. Whatever. 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
Or 2010.
More like 10, 11.
2010-ish. Yeah, 2010. Yes, ish.
And we've been hanging out for a long time.
We used to see each other a lot then. I remember it, we met when Springboard started. Well, or a few years after Springboard started.
Yeah.
Because I came to Kumasi to do some work with Springboard.
Yeah.
I remember you were doing some work with Springboard as well.
Yeah,
and that's when we really connected,
way back when I was younger. So you mentioned that you're a priest. First of all, I was asking you before the show, is this how you dress all the time?
So I'm here as a priest, yes. And so no, I don't dress like this all the time. I'm normally in jeans and a t-shirt. But when I'm doing something official, yes, I dress properly.
Okay. Do you find people like watching you, or are you used to the stairs now?
I'm kind of used to it. I mean, I don't really pay attention to whether or not people are watching it. When it's like that, it's like you are looking to be watched. But a lot of priests, I mean, this is how Anglican priests dress. This is how a lot of Catholic priests dress. And I think generally because I'm in the priesthood, it doesn't really strike me as odd. But I'm sure I can imagine that for other people, I don't know if it strikes them as odd, but I mean, they'd probably be like, oh, okay. A lot of people don't know that Anglicans ordain women, and so they don't normally immediately associate me with the Anglican Church. They would associate with something else in their mind, but then when they ask, I explain it to them.
And you wear black and white, or?
Yes, we wear white cassocks and black cassocks.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm going to take you all the way back to your childhood, right?
Okay.
Let's say I don't know you.
Right.
I don't know you at all. You're my guest. We've never met. We've never met.
Okay, we've never
What
met.
is your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood memory? Gosh, you're taking me back to so many things. I think it'd probably be Christmas. So, when I was a kid, they were like real residential neighborhoods. When I say real residential, it's like the whole neighborhood was residential. It wasn't like one building is an office, one building is a house. And so I remember that Christmas Day was always the day when, so leading up to Christmas, my mother baked a lot. So she'd make cakes and achumo and all kinds of stuff. And then on Christmas Day, or Christmas Eve, everything was shared into different baskets and so on. And of course, there are not that many baskets. So Christmas morning, all of us, so it was my brother and my two brothers and myself, and we'd go out into the neighborhood, each one with their basket. So you're going to give your cake and achumo to Mrs. Esiama, then she'll take it out, and then you have to bring the basket back home, and then they reload.
Oh, you're doing multiple trips.
Yeah, they reload from Mrs. Mensaba, and they go and give the Mensabas theirs.
Original delivery. Dispatch right there.
Exactly, that was the original delivery. But it was just nice because every house you went into, you got a drink or you got some toffee or you got something, and it was just really nice and neighborly. And we don't have that anymore. We don't really have neighborhoods anymore. And even when we have neighborhoods, I mean, you have no idea who your next door neighbor is.
Which is terrible.
It's really, really terrible that we do that now. So
I had a similar upbringing to yours in that sense. And I remember some of the families even now. But these days, I feel like we are very closed off. And you wouldn't send your child to another family for them to give your child a drink. Like, it's a big deal if your child goes to drink in somebody's house.
I know. We're growing up, the neighbor used to beat us. And, you'd be begging the neighbor not to tell your parents that they beat you, because if your parents knew your neighbor beat you, then they'd also beat you.
Because you must have done something wrong.
Exactly.
But now,
but nowadays,
it's not like that at
nothing.
all.
It's a shame.
Tell me about your education. I researched a bit, right?
Yeah.
It's not a papa. So tell me about your upbringing through, let's say, basic school, secondary, and all of that.
Okay, so I went to Golden Age. Golden Age is a nursery. I think now it's primary in Abilimpi. But at the time I went to Golden Age, it was Mrs. Simpson's new school. So Mrs. Simpson was probably younger than we are now.
Oh, really?
And she had started this school in I think it was in Cantonment, if I remember correctly. There were not that many kids. Maybe there were like 30 of us, max. But the whole school. Yeah, the whole school. And I started school a bit late. I think I started school proper when I was about 4 or 5. So it's not like nowadays where 8 months and you send your child to school. So, and I'd never been away from my mother. So for the first week, I cried throughout, the whole day. I just cried, day after day after day I'd cry. But after a while, I warmed up to it. And then I finished Golden Age and I went to Richchurch.
Oh, okay.
And I was at Richchurch from class 1 through to class 3.
Okay.
Then, right before I went to class 4, I was admitted at GIS, Ghana International School.
Right.
So I started at GIS class 4, so I must have been about 8 or 9.
Yeah. And
then I went all the way through to upper 6. But when I was in Form 2, I repeated Form 2. And I say this on purpose.
Okay.
Because it's important for us to understand that there are hiccups and hitches and catastrophic failures. When you're 14 and you repeat, it's like a catastrophic
big
failure.
Deal.
But then now, in my 40s, I mean, I have to remember to speak about it. But I say that because I know there are young people who lose their confidence because they repeated a class, and so I mean, I look at it in the positive sense, like both the 95 graduating class and the 96 graduating class are my classmates.
Right.
Because I didn't graduate with 95, but I was with school with them up until Form 2, and then they went to Form 3, and I stayed in Form 2. But, they were just a year ahead of me. So, of course, I still knew them. So both
even now, I'm thinking that must have been difficult.
It was very difficult then. Of course, when you're a kid, those things are really, really, really tough. And even growing up, when I say growing up, as you progress a little bit more, you feel like somewhere, because now they are in lower 6, and you're in Form 5. When they're in upper 6, you are in lower. When they go to university,
when you sat in the same class with
exactly,
them,
So that kind of. But then when you get to a certain stage in life, it actually stops mattering. I mean, I'm sure, but for me mentioning it now, most of them don't even remember. Like, it's true. She was in our class at one point. So I finished GIS, and at the time I finished GIS, the universities had gone on strike. I actually wanted to come to tech. Tech was my dream. I wanted to come to tech. I know. I wanted to come to tech and do medicine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was my
I didn't even know you after all.
But then the universities had been on strike, so I was going to have to sit at home for 2 years to be able to even be ready to enter tech. And at that time, my brother had gone to university in the U.S., and so my parents were like, well, I mean, why would you sit around here? Why don't you, prepare to go to the U.S. as well? So I did my SATs, I passed, and I went to university in the U.S. I did a physics degree because I was still looking to go to medical school.
Okay.
But in the course of doing physics, I realized that I didn't want to go to medical school. Engineering was far more interesting. So I did a master's degree in mechanical engineering, and then I started working as an engineer.
Yeah. There's still more to talk about education, but how did it feel like leaving Ghana? This is you after sixth form. Is like
I was like 19. Yeah, because I had repeated. I was a bit older, so I was 19 when I left.
And you left alone?
I left alone. I knew I was going to meet my brother.
In the same school?
In the same school, yes. Okay. I went to the same school. But I mean, when you go and meet your brother in school, it's not like they are doing anything for you. Right? They pick you from the airport and they're like, okay, that's your dorm room, and then that's
How did that feel like?
It was, I had I'd never traveled outside of Africa.
Okay.
I'd gone to various countries on the continent, but I'd never left the continent. One of the things I always do is I look at the stars. Every time I go anywhere, I look at the stars just to see where they are.
Okay.
And because I'd always traveled in Africa, the stars were always in the same place. And it really, really struck me that the stars moved. I mean, the place I looked where I was expected to see, they just weren't there. So that was really unsettling for me. But there were other things that I saw. There was grass, there was trees, slightly different trees. But for me, it was like I was constantly looking for what I could connect back to home, and I'd always wanted to come back home. So it was exciting, it was scary. I remember when I landed, so I went to university in Ohio, and so I knew I was going to Cincinnati in Ohio. What I didn't know was that the Cincinnati airport is actually in Kentucky.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
It's just across the river. I mean, it's just like, one of those things where there's like a river and one side is one state, and So here I am, having traveled alone, for the first time. We do this long 11, 12-hour journey. I went through Amsterdam. Those days you didn't just hop from Accra to New York. You had to go through Europe. And
transit and all that.
So I finally arrived in Cincinnati, and they're like, oh, welcome to Cincinnati, Kentucky. And I'm just like, I'm supposed to be going to Ohio. So, I got out of the plane like, okay, the plane has landed. It's not going anywhere else. So let me just get out. And the whole time I'm just like, I'm in the wrong state. Like, I don't know how I managed it.
Yeah.
But then I saw my brother, so that resolved. But but it was just, from that time getting off the plane, the whole time I'm thinking, but I thought
I'm not supposed to be here.
I'm not supposed to be here.
I think our parents toughened us growing up.
Yeah, sort of. Well, in comparison to our children.
Yes. Do you see yourself letting your daughter travel like that by her? You probably will go with her, at least the first time.
I've thought about it. It's actually something I've spent quite a bit of time thinking about, and I would like her to go on her own.
Okay.
of course, I'm not being very fair because she has done a bit of travel on her own. So
it's not totally new.
No, it's not. It's not totally new. It's not totally new.
Now I'm thinking I baby my boys too much, but
let them go out small. Let them experience life small.
Yeah. How did schooling in the U.S. change you?
Schooling in the U.S.
Mm-hmm. How did it change you?
Schooling in the U.S. Made me a lot more courageous, I'd say.
Okay.
So, we grow up in a society where you don't speak until you're spoken to.
Mm-hmm.
You don't ask questions.
Yeah.
You accept what you're told because you've been told it, especially by an adult.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is very rote kind of learning. Yeah. I was taken aback by how much liberation and leeway students in the U.S. had. I mean, the lecturer says something and the students are like, "No, I don't agree." I'm like, "Which one? You don't agree?"
I know.
That was always very strange for me. So it really opened me up to the concept of leadership, the concept of, exerting oneself and starting to think on your own and being intentional about things. So, yeah.
Wow. Now, I met you as, I think you had just come back to Ghana.
Yes,
if
I
I'm
just come back to
correct.
Ghana when we met, yeah.
And then we were dabbling in some businesses.
Yes, various businesses. We're trying to see how far.
Without revealing all.
Oh,
Tell me about your life as a business owner. First of all, are you still running any business?
No, not a business in that sense. No.
Okay.
So I run a foundation,
Right.
And I work as a priest. And
Yeah.
So my primary work is working as a priest.
Okay.
And being an executive director on a foundation, I wouldn't quite say I run the foundation. I'm sort of on the strategy side of it, but there are very able-bodied. Shrimpoma runs it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about the foundation.
Yeah,
let's
we'll
talk about business.
So I'm not in business anymore. I'm a totally worthless businesswoman. I just couldn't figure business out. It's not my skill. It's just not a strong point for me. And I think it's one of the things that I'm speaking about from the perspective that it is important for us to identify our strengths, and just as important for us to know and identify our weaknesses
and own our weaknesses.
And be able to hone in on the things we are strong at, so that we don't become a jack of all trades, but essentially we become somebody who is very good at what they know how to do.
Okay.
And where they are not good at something, they are able to delegate or get the assistance. Business is not my thing at all. It's just not.
Is it because of how business is done in Ghana, or what?
I don't think it's because of how business is done in Ghana. It's because I think, first of all, the businesses I was working on were not things I was passionate about.
Okay.
And for me, when it's not, I think for anybody, when it's not really something you're passionate about, you don't really have the drive for it.
Yeah.
And when it becomes stressful, you don't really have a strong desire to pursue it.
Yeah.
But I also think part of my business challenges were just because that's not the direction God wanted me to go in.
Okay.
And God can mafia you hard. when He doesn't want you to do something you're doing. And I've met people who've said to me that, I think I'm supposed to be doing something else because everything I touch is failing. Because it's almost like that is not the path you're supposed to follow.
Right.
And as long as you keep pursuing what you're not supposed to be pursuing, God will keep redirecting you until you find your way.
And you only find that out in hindsight.
Yes, you only find that out in hindsight.
While you're going through it, you're in the thick of it. So
yeah, you think you're like, no, Charlie, the house people are doing me. These people, you come up with all these reasons why it's not working, except the fact that maybe this is not where you're supposed to be.
So if you were not a priest, what profession would you have loved to do?
I think if I was not a priest, I'd probably be doing something still in philanthropy.
Okay.
Because even when I was working as an engineer, so much of my time was invested in, I used to sit on the Human Rights Commission for for Columbus, Indiana. I used to be on the Advocates for Children also for the state. So I used to work at a battered women's shelter, a volunteer at a battered women's shelter. So I've always been involved in something that helps people.
Fantastic.
And it's always been the thing that truly brings me my greatest joy,
Wow.
is when I see, somebody overcome and somebody feel better. So I think ultimately I would still have ended up in a philanthropic space, yeah.
I didn't know you at all.
Oh, you do.
Let me read a few comments on Facebook.
Sure.
Augustus Luchot says, this is Majesty watching from Jamestown. She's good, big energy.
Jamestown people.
Yeah. And then Anthony Manassian says, watching you from Kumasi, really enjoying your program. Thank you, Anthony and Augustus, for watching the Women Lately show. It's interesting how many men watch the show.
It's amazing how many men watch women shows.
Well, we love to have men on the show. We love your contributions and all of that. So, you moved from business or multiple businesses.
Multiple businesses.
Yes.
I was doing some HR business.
I remember that one.
Doing that,
That's
our other business.
That business is called If You Know, You Know.
I know, if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know.
I think, Akua, all those things have made us who we are.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
I don't look at any of them like a mistake or an accident.
Yeah,
Because regardless, you learned something from it.
absolutely.
And it added to who you are now.
Yeah.
Yeah. At least you know what not to do.
And
in
and
some
also,
scenarios.
especially as a priest, I know what people suffer. So when I talk to business people who are telling me about the business is not working, I know what that feels like, because
You've been there, done that.
I've
We
been
have
there,
the
done that.
T-shirt. and
Exactly. I have the T-shirt for it. Yeah.
all. Yeah. And then at a point you were with Bost.
Yes. So
Tell me about that
when-
journey.
So when all the businesses failed, and everything else failed, at that point, it was an interesting time for me. I was starting to really find myself from a faith perspective. So I'd stopped being a Christmas and Easter, a CNE Christian.
That's a new one.
That's the term, a Christmas and Easter Christian.
Right.
Everybody goes to church at Christmas and Easter. So I stopped being a CNE Christian. I never really was. I always used to go to church. But I used to go to church because that's what you do on Sunday. I
Okay.
never really used to invest myself. I wouldn't say I had a relationship with the Lord. I just went to church, took
Because you had to
communion.
go.
Well, because you went. I mean, what else are you going to do on Sunday? You go to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
So it was a time in my life where I was starting to find my feet and really explore from a faith perspective and understand, who this whole God thing, what's it really about? And what's my relationship? When I was younger, when I was at Rich Church, I did have a relationship with God, but I was so young that it didn't really concrete in my mind. It was just, he was cool. But
I hear the Gen Zs call him Sky Daddy.
Sky Daddy, I love
And I
it.
have a problem. I have a problem with this.
Oh, I love it, Sky Daddy.
That is what they say.
Yeah, so, it was cool, but I just thought that's how God was supposed to be. But when I grew older and things were going really wrong, business is not working, so many things were not working, I really started to explore that relationship. And I started to spend a lot of time in prayer.
Okay.
And started to investigate, who is God? How does he work? How does the whole thing function, And it was then that I started praying about, okay, if the promises in Scripture are real and so on, how can I appropriate some of these scriptures? And if I'm being honest, it was more like, how can I test this God? He says he's this, he says he's that, he says he will do this, and so on and so forth. It was also at a time when the issue of priesthood had started to come up. I was really struggling with God. I was really struggling with the situations in my life. I didn't feel as if church was feeding me or giving me the answers that I wanted. And of course, remember, I'm a mechanical engineer, so everything in my mind was like, what is the solution,
Yeah.
So I went to seminary. I'm coming to the Bost question. I went to seminary because I felt like if I was going to get a scientific view of God, it would be in a school where God is studied, with data and facts. And, I was very deliberate in my approach about solving this problem.
I think you are with everything.
Yes, I am.
With everything.
How do we solve this God and relationship problem? And I didn't think I'd find it in the church. I felt like, okay, where does the church learn these things? They learn it in seminary. So I'm just going to go there to the source of the issue, get the data, get the facts, analyze it, then come up with.
So when you're in seminary, was the business running, or you were?
Everything had collapsed.
So you were full-time in the school?
I was in seminary full-time.
Okay.
There was nothing else to do.
Okay.
So during that time, there was a lot of revelation. I mean, now there are a lot of things I understand that I hadn't understood at the time. But God used to spend a lot of, he still does, but spend a lot of time talking to me about trusting him, about allowing him to build my life, about appropriating his promises, about believing that if I seek him first, all the other things that I'm looking for will be added to me. It's one of those scriptures that I really anchor my life around.
Right.
And one of the things that kept coming up in seminary, because I'm so analytical, was I did very well in seminary. I was a distinction student. But it was because of the way I approach studies and the way I analyze things. And so people kept saying, oh, you should become a priest. And I was like, no. Priesthood, it's for Crife people, people who are properly vested in the Crifeness. Me, I'm just hanging about. But around that time, I prayed. And I said to God that, everything in my life has failed. But you have said that if I seek you first and your kingdom, your righteousness, everything else will be added on to me. And right now, I need a job. This is the reality on the ground. And the way I'm talking to you is how I had the conversation with God. I was like,
are you one of those who put a chair in your room and say, God, come and sit down? Because I have a friend like that.
I've done that before. Just to make it as practical as possible. But I was like, look, this is the reality on the ground. I need a job. You say you want me to serve you, you want me to do all of these things. So let's have a deal. I need to know if I'm hearing from you clearly. Give me a job and we'll do this. But since you are God, you can choose the job. The only thing is that I want to be number one or number two. I don't want to start.
You want with conditions
at the
too?
bottom. Yeah, well, just a couple of conditions, not too many. So it wasn't 7 days that I prayed this, that I got a phone call with regards to the general manager position at Bost. I didn't know what Bost was. I'd never heard of Bost. When I found out Bost was a state-owned enterprise, and when I realized that the job would be the second in command, I didn't think I'd get it, because I felt as if, some of these jobs can be quite politically influenced. I don't know anybody in any political space, so I thought, there's no way I'm getting this job. But I went for the interview, because why not? I hadn't been to an interview in a while.
Okay.
And the day I interviewed, I got the job.
Wow.
Yeah, so that, for me, was the first, in my adult life, real big. I asked God something and he answered almost immediately. So that was a big shift in my faith walk.
Right.
Yeah.
And you were in Bost for just a few years, I
was in Bost for 2 years.
Just 2 years?
Yeah, just 2 years. Yeah.
How was your time at Bost?
Bost was very exciting. And I mean, like you said, nothing is wasted. Bost has really prepared me for a lot of the things that I'm doing with my life now. I never worked in a state enterprise. I mean, I never worked in Ghana in any organization that I didn't start.
Yeah.
So I was used to working in the US, and there's just a way, so I just never been in Ghana corporate, Ghana government, Ghana anything before. So it was really new for me. What probably struck me the most was just how much our culture influences the way we work. So that was a big eye-opener for me. There were lots of, I came in very corporate, and there were lots of things that I discovered, like, and I was like, I didn't know that, and, I'd speak my mind and so on and so forth. And I was, now I look back, I can see how I was very abrasive. I came across as very abrasive to the people I worked with, because they wouldn't have been used to that kind of, brashness, just because in the US, the way you deal with the people who work for you and with you is not personal.
Yeah,
it's about
just
the work. It's about the work, so you can fire somebody and go and have a drink with them that evening because they know it's not personal. But it's really struck me how, because of the way we are as a people, a lot of things are interpreted as personal, even though that was not my intention. So it really opened up my eyes to how things work in this country, how to get ahead, how to maneuver situations, and so on. So it was a big eye-opener for me. Great, great, great learning experience. I met some very great people. Some of them are still people I'm in touch with. They're still my friends. So it was a good experience overall. Stressful, but good.
Pardon my language, but you're a very small... You're a very small woman. But it seems everything you're saying is like big stuff. Do you see yourself like that?
No, actually, I don't. It's funny. Every time I see a picture of myself, I'm always struck by how small I am. I'm like, because I feel like this person I was talking to, what's in me crying?
You wish.
So when I see myself in a picture, I'm like, this guy is that tall.
You comfort me. Nana Bedu Junior on Facebook says, great show, welcome. Nana, he's always the first to text, but today I don't know what happened. Comfort Ahaji J says, loving it. Thanks for joining the show, Comfort and Nana. So you bet with God.
Yes, and I lost.
Were you disappointed?
As I think most people do when they bet with God. Disappointment is not the word. I was frightened. Priesthood is a big thing. I've always been a public speaker. I'm a Toastmaster. I joined Toastmasters when I was 19. So public speaking has never been a challenge for me. But this is talking about God. You're public speaking about the word of God. It's not something that you can say, you actually have to prepare and be ready for it. And that, for me, it was frightening. I think priesthood is, Jesus says that the body counts for nothing, the soul counts for everything. And see how we revere doctors, those who take care of the body, and how serious and important it is to take care of the body. So if you are a person who is in charge of, leading people in the right direction spiritually, not just in what you say to them, but what you do, the way you carry yourself, the situations that happen to you, it is a huge responsibility. If somebody crosses me on the road, the way I used to tell them off, I can't do that now because I don't know who's up for. It's funny. I was driving. It was raining. It had rained very heavily. I was driving on the road, and I saw a guy walking. So I slowed down because I didn't want to splash him. But there was a pothole that it was covered in water. So I fell in the pothole and I totally drenched the guy. So I rolled down the window and I was like, oh, sorry, I'm so sorry. And then he said, hey, St. Joseph. And I said, the worker. And turns out he was an Anglican. I said, hey, God. So you don't know where what you do is going to...
and who's
watching and how it's going to influence people. And so for me, when I realized priesthood was in my future, I was frightened more than anything else,
And how long have you been a priest?
This is my 7th year in the priesthood. I know, it's amazing. We are old.
Officially.
Franca, officially we are old.
It doesn't feel like 7 years, honestly.
No, it doesn't. I was actually talking to somebody, and I needed to tell them how long I'd been the priest. So I was actually counting off my fingers. I was like, oh my goodness, this is my 7th year.
What has surprised you most about being a priest?
I think, a lot of things have surprised me, but I think I am always struck by how awestruck people are by priests. And it always serves as a caution for me of how big an expectation people have, and how much people have forgotten that priests are people.
Human as
They're
well.
just regular people who have a particular calling. Just like all of us have a calling to do a particular thing. This is our calling. So for me, I realized that most people don't pray for priests. because everybody thinks
We
priests are
expect you
supposed
to pray for
we're
us.
supposed to pray for you, yeah. So it's priesthood is a very hard job. It's a very stressful job. It's a job, Paul made a statement that it's important to him that he doesn't become a signboard for other people to salvation. And you can very quickly become a signboard because your whole life becomes about winning souls for Christ, comforting people, strengthening people, and so on and so forth. And you have to learn, just like in corporate, just like anywhere, how to draw those boundaries so that you can take care of yourself as well, so you can continue to be a good tool in the hands of God. So yeah, I think what has surprised you the most is just how we don't think about priests as human.
Yeah. Do you feel pressured by that expectation?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
I used to feel very pressured, and I was fortunate, I think last year, 2 years ago, to be part of something called the Anglican Leadership Initiative.
Just 2 years ago.
Just 2 years.
We're pressured now for 5 years.
I'm telling you, I used to be under a lot of pressure. I mean, I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't resting, I constantly had a cold or some kind of infection. There was always something wrong with me because
Really?
all this stress, you have to do this and you don't want to say no, and it's just like anything, you feel like somebody calls you and it's the day you're supposed to rest, but you're thinking, but it's the work of God, so let me go, So there's this constant pressure on you, and you're just dying. You're not spending time with your family, you're not spending time with your kids, you're just doing, allegedly for God. And I think it's actually an attack. I think it's a spiritual attack to sort of lead you down this path of you're doing for God, but in reality, it's more about yourself and making sure that people think the best of you, and not so much about asking God that, God, I am a tool in your hands. In what way do you want to use me? Yeah. Jesus was praying one morning, and Peter and the disciples, he had healed a bunch of people the day before. And Peter and the other disciples came to him, so the people are waiting for you. And Jesus said, let's go to the next town. Why? Because he'd been praying. And so he knew that staying in that town was not his call for that day. He needed to move to the next town. But what happens is you just you're doing. And so you end up serving God in places you are not supposed to be serving him. And so essentially you are just serving yourself. Because you are not...
you haven't been sent there.
You haven't been sent there, but you're going there. But 2 years ago, I went to my bishop put me in a program called the Anglican Leadership Initiative, which takes young leaders within the Anglican Church from all over the world to sit and talk about priesthood and to equip us.
Wow. This was in Ghana?
It happened in the US.
Okay.
And in South Carolina.
Okay.
And there was a particular acronym that I heard that really shook me. And it was the word busy. And they had set up an acronym which says, being under Satan's yoke.
Wow.
Yes, that was my reaction. And I thought, goodness, how much do I do in my busyness? How much of it is really about God? And how much of it is self-serving? How much? Because God wouldn't give you a family and then say, I don't want you to spend time with it. He wouldn't give you a body and say, I don't want you to rest it. So to what extent are we under Satan's yoke in this our doing? We're always doing and it's like, oh, this guy is such a hard worker, he's always doing. It's like,
fire.
He's on fire, he's always doing. But he's like, well, doing for who? For self or for God? So 2 years ago, after I went through that program, I became a lot more structured and a lot more prayerful about my work and what God is really asking me to do, and whether it is self-serving or whether it is God-serving.
Wow. And you've seen a change, like in your health?
Oh, I'm good. I'm relaxed. I'm not stressed. I have clarity about what I should do and what I shouldn't do. And once in a while I get it wrong, but I'm able to quickly recover and come back to making sure that it's about God.
Catch your breath. From Poma in Tiforo.
Yes, from Poma is the person who runs the OOTIIF Foundation. Amazing.
She's your co-founder?
She's not the co-founder. The co-founder is Alexander Tutu. Professor Alexander.
Oh, the pharmacist, right?
Yes, the pharmacist, yes. But Frimpoma is the one who makes it happen, and you have to have her on this show. She's truly amazing.
Consider this your open invitation to be on the Women Lately show. She says, hey, here, if you fire someone and go have a drink with them, you may have to go with your own drink. That is so funny and so true, right?
I know, right?
Because you'll be in the news the next day.
Yeah.
They've put something in your drink. Nana Bedu Bonsu Jr. says, separate the person from the profession. That is something Ghanaians struggle to accept.
Yes, very true.
So back to your point about, I think we put all of ourselves in our work, and like our personal lives and our work lives are all intertwined sort of. Yeah. Again, Nana Bedubonsu Jr. says, see a lot of similarities between Miss Franca and Reverend Akua. Look alike. I was asking at the beginning of the show, they say we look alike. Is it true?
They've always said that.
The height is the same, haircuts the same, spectacles the same. Then we are twins at this point. Comfortable on the mic, the same. Nose is different.
The nose is different. Something is different.
We'll find out when we take the picture. But goodness. Smart women, Nana. Should we be happy or we should be sad?
We should be happy.
We should be happy. Yeah? They say we are short. The height is the same.
They were short. We are height-wise.
These days, don't people identify as what they want to be? Please, I'm tall.
I know.
I'm big tall. I'm big tall. I'm not short. So I have watched you become a priest.
Yes, you have.
It was nothing I expected. I remember those times we used to talk a lot when you were in the Bible school.
Yeah.
And to me, it was just, like you said, trying to find out more about God. Mm-hmm. I never saw priesthood coming.
Yes, truly.
But I love how you've owned it. Mm-hmm. I have to say this. What my priesthood I fair? Yeah. Because when you walked in, I asked you, is that how you dress all the time? Like on a sunny working day, you're in your cassock and you are working. No apologies about it.
No.
It's beautiful.
It's an office. It's not a costume.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Like, there's no apology around it. Like, this is me. I have come in my black cassock. Do whatever, And it's beautiful to watch someone, like, take up space in their industry and be excited about it. You are preaching to young people. You are doing, do you call it mass in Anglican?
Yes, mass.
So you say mass or you do mass?
You celebrate mass.
You celebrate mass. I have never been Orthodox. I don't really know the terms. Yeah, mass. But you make it beautiful. And anytime I see you speaking on any platform or whatever, I sort of watch the comments and people's general reaction. And I realized that you are ministering to a lot of people. And some of them you may never have met. Yes. So whatever path took you where you are, I think it's a beautiful path.
Yes.
And God knew all what he was doing. Yeah. But sometimes I think he's just patient with us. He just watches you do businesses, Sabine Solutions.
Yeah, I know.
All of that. And then bring you exactly where he wants you to be, to influence the people he wants you to reach. Yeah. So you're doing fantastic. I just needed to say that.
Thank you. I always say that God is like a GPS machine. Yeah. When you go down the wrong road, you just keep telling you. Say 10 left.
And if you are stubborn.
If you are stubborn, you keep going in circles, but he'll keep directing you, how to get you back on track. Yeah. It's been... now, of course, you've known me for a long time. So, you've been around through some of the really difficult times. Yeah. But all in all, when I look back, there's nothing I would change. There's nothing. I remember you and I sitting at restaurants and talking about our future. We never spoke about future. We never spoke about priesthood.
It never came up.
It never came up.
Never.
But when I look back, there's not. I wouldn't change anything. It all needed to happen to get us to where we are now.
As they say, hindsight is 20/20.
No idea.
Yeah, I like saying that a lot. Now, I came across this quote, right? I don't know who said it.
Okay.
I came across it. They said, when a child is born, the mother is also born.
Interesting.
Yeah.
When a child is born,
the mother is also born.
Is also born. Okay. Well, true. Especially your first child. Yeah.
Exactly.
And the type of mother you would be to that child. Yes.
So what type of mother are you?
Oh boy.
Are you the strict type?
I'm strict, as in there are certain things that I think need to be a particular way, but I'm also very liberal, from the perspective that I want to hear the perspective of my children. I want to understand what they think. I like them to express themselves. I think one of the things that has hurt us, especially as African children, is that we're not really allowed to express ourselves. It was
right?
Big taboo. Hey, we express ourselves. Where am I?
Just listen and do.
I know, just listen and do. You know, so. But I think especially now, because of social media, it's really important to allow our children to express themselves, because it gives us a sense of where their minds are. It's, you know, whenever I go somewhere with, I've got 2 boys and a girl now. Whenever I go somewhere with them and there's a song playing, I mean, recently I was in the car and I just put it on a Radio City. And there were some songs and all 3 of them were singing. And I'd never heard the song in my life. I mean, not even like in passing. Like, I just never. So I asked them, I was like, where do you guys know this song? And they're like, oh, it's a common song.
Yeah, everybody knows it.
Everybody knows it. And I'm thinking, okay. Then the next song comes, I've never heard before, and they're singing it as well. You know, so you realize that our kids are really exposed to a whole host of things that we don't know about, a whole host of people. And, I mean, we haven't even started talking about social media. So it's important to hear them out so that you know where they are, and so you can guide them. It's also important to let them know that you're willing to hear them out, as scary and as painful as it is sometimes, because if you create the impression or you frighten them into silence, they'll express themselves somewhere else. Yeah. They'll look for help in other places. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure Frimpama will tell you that I'm overly liberal.
Oh, you are?
But I generally... I'm strict about. There are certain things that just must be. So that's one thing. I mean, the ways you're supposed to behave, and ways you're supposed to dress, ways you're supposed to carry yourself. Those things. I mean, we were raised a certain way. We're not going to raise our children any differently. Right. But in terms of being able to have the platform to grow and explore and so on, I like, you know, I like the kids to have that opportunity. Not always shut them down every time they bring something up. Yeah. You know,
these ones will speak up.
Yeah, listen and correct. Listen and correct,
Listen and correct. I love it. Love it. So different from our upbringing.
Yeah. It's like the road to Emmaus. You know the story of the road to Emmaus. Jesus was really patient. He listened to his disciples talking all kinds of rubbish, and then he told them that they were foolish. But at least he listened. Then he told them they were foolish, and then he told them the right thing. You know, so that type of upbringing. Yeah.
And what's the legacy you want your children to remember you for?
That's a big question. Yeah. I probably the biggest one is that I want them to know that I love them unconditionally, and that everything I offered them was the best that I know how to do. You know, I think a lot of times we are very hard on our parents, especially this our me and you, our generation. We're very hard on our parents because we have learned new things about parenting, and we have learned new ways of being. Yeah. But honestly, they didn't have that. You know, a lot of our parents forced us into certain careers and so on and so forth. But it wasn't out of evil. It was because that's what they knew. Yeah. You know, they knew that we are lawyer, we are doctor, You know, they didn't know what you and I know, that if you want to be a shoemaker, you can be just as successful as a shoemaker. Yeah. So if your child comes to you and tells you that I want to be a music producer, that you shouldn't shut them down and say music producer,
a proper job.
You know, a proper job. You know, but our parents did the best they knew, and I want my children to know that I'm doing the best I know, and what I've done for them is all out of love and out of the information I have right now to do the best for them. That information will by all means change, but I don't have it right now. So there's nothing I can do. So yeah, I think that's what I want them to remember, is that I did the best for them, that I know how, and they should do same.
Fantastic. Catch your breath again. When I called you, I said, Akua, I want you to come on the show, blah, blah, blah. She said, how long is the show? I said, 1:30. She said, hey, what will we be talking about? It's 2 o'clock.
Are you serious? Wow.
It's 2 o'clock. Anyway, catch your breath and let me tell you about who is sponsoring the Women Lately show today. Coloured Yarns is thrilled to bring you the latest in African fashion with a twist of global elegance. Coloured Yarns is an African designer wear shop where clothes are made to fit. We make custom outfits for engagements, weddings, and every occasion. We've got ready-to-go jackets, casuals, church, and funeral outfits. Would you like to visit Coloured Yarns after the show?
Yes, of course.
Great. At Coloured Yarns, we offer a diverse range of outfits tailored to suit all sizes and body types, the small, medium, and plus size. Step into the world of chic style with our brand new arrivals from the UK. Treat your wardrobe to quality brand name shoes and bags like Clarks, Nine West, M&S and Klein, Aldo, Kenyan slippers, and beaded slippers. Coloured Yarns is open to all your wholesale orders from 10 pieces and above. Whether you are stepping out for a casual day or dressing up for a special event, we have the perfect accessories to enhance your outfit and elevate your style. Visit Coloured Yarns and experience the fusion of African culture and international sophistication. Locate Coloured Yarns inside the Kumasi City Mall, opposite Saks Pharmacy, also in Edum Ampoma Arcade, same building with FedEx, opposite Edum Presby. In Accra, you can locate them at East Legon on the Otano Cave. Call Coloured Yarns on 0244 795626. Coloured Yarns, where threads talk. Make 2024 the year you take your health seriously. Visit the Perfect Health Shop for a wide range of healthy products, from organic honey molasses, assorted herbal teas, spices and seasonings, collagen gummies, apple cider vinegar, cranberry juice, and the likes of these. We are always at your service. Locate us on the Dr. Otumfour Drive in Denyame, opposite the ECG office. You can call or WhatsApp Perfect Health Shop on 055-373-4616. Perfect Health Ghana. A healthier you naturally. I'm running through the ads because I was enjoying the conversation way too much and I needed to hurry you back. Anyway, if you are watching the Women Lately show, we are talking to Reverend Akua, as she prefers to be called. She's our standout woman for season 5, and she's telling us the exciting story of her life. I don't know if you feel exciting, but your life seems exciting. If you are the one going through, I don't know how it feels. But for me, sitting out and watching is like, wow, she has an exciting life. But all the same, you can join the discussion on WhatsApp on 0548 501 584. And you can post your comment on Orange 107.9 on Facebook. Akua, you have 2 master's degrees or 3?
3.
Hey, God. Are you considering a PhD?
I mean, I should finish it this year. If I can buckle down and focus here, I should finish my PhD this year.
Charlie. Oh, I don't believe it.
It's true.
I don't believe it. Now, some years ago, you were appointed to the board of the Otumfour Osei Tutu, the second foundation.
Yes.
Is that the same thing that used to be the educational fund, or is
yes?
Totally different?
So what the foundation has done is all the various funds and philanthropic work that Otumfour was doing have all been brought under one umbrella, which is the
foundation.
The foundation, yes.
Right.
Yes.
So what do you do? What kind of work do you do?
So we do education work. So everything you see Otumfour do. So recently he had this, I think it was a language thing that they did recently.
Yeah.
All the work with the medical work, hospitals, water, all the work that is done comes through the foundation. So he has one philanthropic arm, and we sit as the board members to help to set strategy, to look at how we are doing financially, and so on and so forth. So we're not, as board members, we're not actively out there. Well, sometimes we are. I mean, I was here to work with Lady Julia, not this last International Women's Day, but the one before. So a year ago on March 8th, we came and gathered all the schools here and had conversations around that. Not this past one, but the one before was about IT.
Okay.
Looking at women in IT and how to utilize technology as women, using various things. So we talked about health, we talked about science and technology, a variety of things, but how does IT play a role in all of these things?
Right.
So there's quite a lot of work that we set the strategy for to ensure that the foundation is successful, and it's doing well now.
Do you enjoy what you do there?
I do. I wish I were here so that I could be a bit more involved, So it ends up being Zoom meetings, and it's a bit distant. But I do come here because I'm on the board. I do come here quite often, so I try and come to as many Akwesida's as possible, just so that we are meeting the board members, interacting with Otumfour himself, and being visible and present. So yeah, I enjoy the work. I mean, it's interesting to see how different things are done. It also helps me to understand a bit better how different types of foundations are run. And of course, because it's Otumfour, there's also a lot of interest in it. So it's just trying to understand from a strategy standpoint. I'm probably one of the youngest board members there, but so it's also a great learning opportunity for me because the other board members are some very, very experienced people in society, and so it's a great learning opportunity for me to learn and grow from them.
You've essentially become a public servant.
It seems.
And I mean that in the best way.
Yes.
Because you're doing a lot of different things, but they are all like public facing. You're no longer doing like maybe my small business. Not that there's anything wrong with the small business. But
no, I'm not. I mean, everything, and part of it has been because now, like I said, after going to the Anglican Leadership Initiative, I've become very intentional about what I will do and what I will not do. And so it's important to me that everything I do touches youth. And women to some extent. But my key focus is youth. So I always ask the question whenever I'm asked to do anything. The big question that faces me is, how can I use this platform to help and influence youth? So Otumfour's foundation was a total no-brainer. I mean, that is youth all day long. Of course, women and so on, but I mean, it worked a lot with youth. So that for me has been important. So that's one. The other thing that's important to me is making sure that the face of the church, especially when we're talking about spiritual leaders, is not seen as we are in the church, but we are not in the world. The Bible says we're in the world, but we're not of
the world.
So when we exclude ourselves and constantly live in the church, it creates the impression that church leaders have no value to add. So it creates the impression that I heard many times how there was a committee I was put on, and it was a committee of all clergy. And there was a comment passed about how, but like clergy, as of then, it's almost like they went to seminary and
they know nothing about how life is
how can they make a contribution to public service? How can they make a contribution to life? Because their education revolves only around the Bible, essentially, which, I mean, the Bible is a fantastic tool to be educated on. But the idea that priests are sub-educated, or clergy, or pastors, prophets, and so on are sub-educated, or below the bar educated simply because we are in this particular profession, is something that people should be disabused of. There shouldn't be... it shouldn't be established that so for the or any Bible as a and it's also why I say that is important is that it's important that we always contextualize scripture, so that in everything that we do, there's a scripture that applies to it, and it's important that those of us in the priesthood bring that to bear when issues are being discussed. It shouldn't be as if we have to apologize for, I use the example of the Road to Emmaus. The Road to Emmaus is a fantastic leadership tool. How do you bring people to the place they need to be? You must first hear them out. If somebody said this in business school, everybody will clap. But the moment you bring it to the church, then it's like, you know. So there are a lot of things in scripture that can lead and guide us. And we've had some fantastic leaders. I mean, we always talk about Martin Luther King, we talk about Desmond Tutu. These people were priests.
Yeah.
Desmond Tutu was an Anglican bishop. Martin Luther King, I believe, was a Baptist minister.
Yeah.
You know, so the church has a seat at the table of decision makers. And it is important that when those opportunities come up, as Christians, we step up and we step into them. So I've been very intentional about making sure that I get involved in things that touch my heart, youth, but also make people God-facing, so they see God in what we are doing.
I think you're doing a fantastic job at that. Yes, you are. You happen to be the first female director of programs for the Anglican Diocese of Accra.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
So first of all, let's be fair. The ordination of women was a big challenge for a long time. Even still in the Catholic Church, women are not ordained. Yeah. So I'm saying let's be fair from the perspective that let's not make it seem as if
it's always been there.
The church has always had women in priesthood, but they've been undermining them. That is not the case at all. Right. Like I said, I've only been a priest for 7 years. We've been ordaining priests now for maybe 2009, I think, was when we ordained.
Not that long ago.
Not that long ago, certainly within the Anglican Diocese of Accra. So in that sense, we've done well. The bishops who have come through have really made a concerted effort to raise women who are capable and place them in positions. There are other women directors and other first-time women directors in other directorship positions. The director of programs is essentially responsible for all the diocesan programs. So if you think about the pillars of the diocese, we look at social work, we look at things that have to do with training of people in what the ministry is, and so on and so forth. So the role of the director of programs is to make sure that every single theme that the bishop has come up with as the direction of the church, that the programs that are done in the church, whether it's women's ministry, children's ministry, whatever it is, ties back to that theme that has been set for the church for the time that the bishop has set it. So it involves working with the various directors of the various ministries. Right. So like I said, women's ministry, music ministry, youth and children, all of them working with everybody throughout the Greater Accra region, because we are in the Accra Diocese. And then it's also making sure that the diocesan programs, so programs that involve the bishop, synod, ordination, those types of things, that we actually organize those events to make sure that they come off. So there's a lot of event organization, there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of strategy, and then some aspect of fundraising to make sure that the programs and the projects can actually come off. Yeah.
See why I said you have an exciting life?
Yeah, so I mean...
Because then it looks like every day is different for you, right?
Every day is very different for me. Every day is very different for me, and it is exciting. I mean, I don't have a very long attention span. So it's fantastic for me that I get to do all these different things within a day. So I never feel like things are getting monotonous and boring for me. I get to do different things, get to experience different things, and it's been a lot of growth, some stress, but mostly it's been fun. I've actually really enjoyed
the ride.
The ride, yeah. I mean, it's and I'm really looking forward to what the rest of the ride holds.
I know there's a lot ahead for you, but there's one major thing we have not talked about, which is OOTIIF Foundation.
Yes.
It's recent, fairly recent.
I started OOTIIF with Alex in 2018.
Okay. About 6 years.
Yeah. So we hadn't quite crystallized into what it is now. Like all things, you start with some idea and then it just kind of grows. But what it was, I said to Alex that, I want my priesthood to be more. I wanted to do something. And so he and I both agreed that whatever we were going to do was going to have to do with fairness. Let's make the world a fairer place for people. Okay. And it was going to have to do with youth. But what exactly it was, we were not sure. So we kind of played with a lot of different ideas. But the essential idea around OOTIIF is that where we've crystallized to is that a lot of people help young people to come up especially underprivileged young people to come up from, go to secondary school or go to university and so on and so forth. Where there's a big gap is when you finish university. If your mother sells charcoal and your father is a taxi driver and you go and get an accounting degree, who guides you? Where do you go? How do you know how to survive? You and I take these things for granted.
Yeah.
Because we are not first generation university graduates. So what you find is that we constantly talk about unemployment, and I don't deny that there's unemployment. But there's a lot of unemployability. On average in Ghana, if you want to hire one really qualified person, you need to interview about 50 to 100 people. That shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
It is happening that way because our youth are not resilient. They have a degree, but they don't have the social skills, they don't have the professional skills, and they don't have the personal skills to be able to survive in the world of work or even in the world of entrepreneurship. So you find that just basic going to an interview to get a job is a problem.
Yeah.
Bachelor's degree, master's degree is a problem. They get a job, they never get promoted, and it's something as simple as body odor, it's something as simple as they don't know how to use cutlery, it's something as simple as they can't take initiative to do something at work. There's too much fear and intimidation in them. So that's what we do as a foundation, is to say, you're a first generation university graduate, and people feel like once you're a university graduate, you're not underprivileged. But a lot of them are. A lot of them, are struggling just to find a meal to eat. But they have that degree, so what we do is to help them build that resilience. So we bring them in, we interview them. We're looking for people who, first of all, appreciate that having this degree is not enough. They've moved beyond the entitlement place, where they've come to the acceptance that a degree is not enough. I need something more to be able to get a job or to create a job for myself. Then when they come into the program, it's a 12-week program, which is a blend of training and an internship opportunity. So there's somebody watching now who says, man, my dream is to be like Franca. But they have no idea what it takes to sit behind the mic you're sitting behind. They don't know that you've flipped through about 15 pages of notes since we started talking, and preparing that notes takes time. So you find in their mind, you just come and sit on radio, you say something, but there's a lot of work that went into it. So we put them in an internship opportunity, which allows them to see, and we place them where, not necessarily where they have a degree, but where they have a passion. So I'll give you examples. So Lester comes to us. Lester has a drama degree. Lester says, I want to be a TV anchor. We put him in a TV station, and he had to do everything. Today, Lester is on production. He hates the front of the camera. His joy, his passion, his love is behind the camera, doing all of that work. Another guy came to us. He actually went to KNUST, Michael. Michael had a physics degree. But he said his passion is in graphic design. So we put him in an internship opportunity. Today he's working as a graphic designer. Then you have Mary T.Y. Mary T.Y. came in. She'd been unemployed for about 3 years, wanted to get into military services, applied, couldn't get anywhere. By the time she finished our program, she decided to start her own security company. She started a company called the She Guards, and it's Ghana's first and only all-female security company. So it's about bringing them to that eureka moment, opening up their minds to see that, I can be and do anything that I want to do as long as I apply myself and I know how to apply myself, how to pitch my business, how to pitch myself. So those are the things we train them in to build them up in their resilience. And we've been truly, truly supported. Deloitte is actually, we are Deloitte's CSR project.
Fantastic.
So they do strategy for us, help us to build up the work we're doing. Bank of Ghana has been an amazing sponsor. Since day one, they've always supported us. Stanbic Bank, a lot of the banks have supported us. And we are very happy with the way it's going. Now we want to grow and get bigger. Now that we've crystallized it. And this is not to mention the tens of volunteers who come in on their own time to come and train or to come and share their testimony. because these are young people who are saying, Charlie, when I see this guy, and the guy comes into a space to be with them and says,
get to ask questions about
ask questions. Say, look, I didn't start anywhere. It's just, I just had the resilience to push through. And that is why you have to be intentional about what you do. So many of our young people don't even know how much time they waste just looking at their phone.
Yeah.
They don't understand how much hard work it takes to get to where you are, to get to where various people are. So that's what we do as a foundation, is to build them up. And we are looking to come to Kumasi. But recently, we
fantastic.
were approached about coming to Kumasi. So it's one of the things that is on our books. We are looking to see what would be the best way to start in Kumasi, so we can start to help young people in Kumasi who have a degree, who everybody feels like, oh, Rana, you have a degree, you are made. And yet they are
hungry.
Yeah, they are hungry. Literally, they are hungry.
So somebody has to apply to come to
Yes,
Equitas?
So you have to apply to the Equitas Foundation. You keep asking me questions. Let me find the information that you need. Frimpoma, can you send us a message on how to apply to Equitas?
Oh, fantastic. And you said it's for 12 weeks.
It's a 12-week program, yes.
So how often do they...
They come into the foundation for training once a week.
Oh, okay.
But the rest of the time, we look to place them in internship opportunities, or if they are already working, we keep them where they are working, but we seek permission for them to take the 1 day off, and then we help them to understand, now that you are working, start looking at your work intentionally. So as we train them in team building, as we train them in how to manage people, the first thing we look at is knowing yourself, self-awareness, because that's where most people fall short. They haven't the foggiest idea who they are, what they like, how they do well, and so on. They don't know their strengths, they don't know their weaknesses. And then we look at others' awareness, and then we look at some of the skills. And one of the things we have found working with Deloitte did some research for us, and what companies are saying is that as for the degree, that's not a problem. Yeah, they are educated. It's all the other things. Yeah, that's where the real struggle is. It's like they can't represent the company as they should, because they just don't have the requisite skills to do so. Yeah.
So it's a finishing school of sorts, right?
If you will, from yes, it's a finishing school. So it's not a university. Yeah. We would run alongside, and that ultimately is where we want to get to, is to a point where we're actually running alongside a university program, so that by the time you leave university, you have both. You're actually ready. A lot of universities outside offer it, but a lot of universities here don't. Yeah.
In fact, I don't even know one university that does. Maybe there are. I just don't know.
I don't know. I think maybe Ashesi University doesn't.
Might have, yeah.
But most universities, they just pour them out, and they are very raw and not ready. Yeah.
Can you believe it's almost time?
I can't believe it. I didn't, I was saying to myself, like, Charlie, Franca doesn't know what she's talking about. There's no way we're going to talk.
You don't know what you're talking about.
There's no way we're going to talk 1 hour.
I can go longer. Trust me.
So I won't.
Let me ask you, do you find people box you when they see the way you appear? They're like, she's one of those feminists. Do you have that?
Nobody's told me to my face, but I kind of get that sense that people think like, oh, this one, Charlie.
But are you a feminist?
I'm not sure what the definition of a feminist is. And because I've heard many definitions of a feminist, so I'm not quite sure what it is. I believe that women are capable human beings, and they should be given every opportunity, equal opportunity as men, to exhibit and to execute what it is that they can do. Yeah. If that is being a feminist, then yes, I am. Yeah. But because I've heard so many different definitions of a feminist, I'm not sure.
We'll take your definition and your response.
Yes. So women should have an equal opportunity to be able to demonstrate their skills, and yes, a fair chance.
We're going to play a game before we round off.
Okay.
Do you have the information?
Or
would you carry on?
Yeah, go ahead. Carry
on. Okay, let's play a little game. What's your favorite self-care activity?
Self-care. When you say self-care, what does that mean? like a physical thing or an emotional thing, or self-care.
Anything you do to take care of yourself.
To take care of myself.
Yes.
I get manicures, I get pedicures. Actually, no, I get pedicures because my cuticles are thin. I get pedicures. My fingers get infected when I do pedicures.
Wow.
Manicures. So I get pedicures, I get massages.
Okay.
I use coconut oil. So yeah,
that's your self-care.
I think so.
Okay. It's not a right or wrong answer.
There's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah. Red lipstick or nude?
Nude.
Okay. You used to like red, no?
I used to wear red.
Yeah.
I don't know if I used to like red. I just
used to wear red.
Yeah.
Okay. High heels or flats?
High heels for sure. Oh, it depends. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, generally I wear high heels.
Okay. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Okay. What's your dream vacation location?
Oh, I can see it in my mind's eye. But I can't remember what it's called. Oh, Maldives.
Okay. I was going to say Bora Bora. If you could change one thing in the Ghanaian society, what would it be and why?
It would be the cutting down of trees.
Mm.
I don't know why when we want to build, we have to clear the whole field. You know, I mean, I've watched Accra just empty of trees.
Yeah.
And since I came here, it's the same thing I'm seeing. I mean, we're building all these little apartments and condos and so on, and we cut every single tree. I'm like, why do we really have to cut the tree? I mean, you go to other countries and the trees are there, they are old, and yet but the buildings are modern. So clearly they must have built with the tree standing there. Yeah, you know, so if that's one thing, that is the one thing I would change. We really need to keep our trees. The country has become, well, the cities have become so hot because there are no trees. And then we plant palm trees which provide no shade. You know, I mean, it's really upsetting. Everywhere there's a construction site, and they just saw these trees away. You're like, wow, you know how long it took the tree to grow.
Is there any way you could do something around it now, if it bothers you that much?
Yeah, I preach about it. I'm talking about it right now. I mean, hopefully somebody somewhere will hear and think, you know, sometimes I think maybe it doesn't strike builders or the owners of these properties that, you know, wouldn't you want to have a property that is like beautifully shaded in trees, you know, and so on. So maybe it doesn't strike us, but I think we should start thinking about it.
Yeah. I was going to say something, but it's okay. Music or podcast?
Oh, music.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs. I'm allergic to cats.
I don't like both. Text or call? This is a trick question.
It is a trick question. It depends on what the conversation is about, but generally I like text because it keeps a record of the conversation, because sometimes you have a conversation with somebody and by the time it's done, you're thinking, what exactly do we talk? Like, what was the main issue? You know? So I think, especially if it's like something to do with business or something, or maybe a voice note, you know, then it's like a blend of a text call. You have a record of it, but it's not lost.
Eat at home or go out?
Oh, I like eating at home. I actually like eating at home.
All right. Waffles or pancakes?
Pancakes.
Fit farm. Love or money?
Love.
Rev.
Love for sure. Who's having business in Anye? If I loved money, I just think of my.
Wait, sweet or salty?
Salty.
Okay. Gym or spa?
Gym.
Okay, but you said your favorite self-care is
I know, but then I like going to the gym.
Do you still go to the gym?
I still go to the gym. I didn't know that gym was self-care. I suppose it is. Yeah.
But that when you wear your castle, go to the gym.
No. Gym, I mean my gym things. Where you know.
Have you seen that? I'm sure you are not on social media as much as I am. There's a video of, I think she's a Nigerian woman in a very long dress. I think they call it abaya or something. Right? Yes, and she's gymming in all that long dress, and it's so funny, you know.
Really?
But all the same, I've had a fantastic time talking to you.
Have they sent you have they posted on the site?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Did she say she's going to post it?
Yeah, she did, but then all of a sudden she hasn't. So let me...
You can send it to me, and then we'll post it in the comments.
Okay.
Because the replay will be there for as long as.
Okay. I'm really hoping that we can get it on there.
Yeah, she hasn't posted it.
She hasn't posted it. Okay.
No.
Let me. Are we allowed to make phone calls on your show?
No. I'll take it from you and then post it in the comment. Right. Maybe Frimpong can pin it so that that'll be the first comment people see.
Okay.
There are so many things about you I didn't know.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought you knew everything about me.
I didn't. Okay. But it's been fantastic talking to you.
Same here. I didn't think we could talk for this long.
But trust me,
I mean, me and you there, we can talk for a long time. But
I could go till 3. I know you're busy, so I'm going to cut it off now. Hopefully, we get to do this again.
Okay. Let's just go a bit longer, just so I can get the Equitas information on there.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
Oh, I don't mind at all. Is there a problem?
We are good?
Okay, great. There is something else I didn't talk about.
Okay.
I think in 2020, correct me if I'm wrong, you sort of blew up after a particular message you preached, and you used tennis song. Right?
Yes, I remember that.
And you know, it's always interesting when people send me things about you and they don't know I know you.
Oh, really?
So that is how I saw it. It's like, look at this priest singing a secular song and, all of that.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to us about what happened then?
Yeah, of course.
All right.
What's your question?
What happened?
What happened?
Yes.
Okay. So, that particular song, For Your Case, I'd never heard it. The first time I heard it, the Holy Spirit spoke to me.
Okay.
And what he said was, this is what I would do for you. I'll do anything for you. And I thought, wow.
That was through a secular song.
Yes. You see, we always limit God. It's like, why would God create the world and then limit himself to a very small portion of it? God spoke to Balaam through a donkey,
Yeah.
So I thought, how many people don't know what God would do for them because they don't listen to gospel music?
That's actually true.
Yeah. They just don't listen to gospel music. That's just, and can't enjoy more with you because they are not those people. And, when you listen to that song, what I find funny is, the song Jireh? The words of that song are actually very similar to words of For Your Case. He says, I will cross the river for you, I'll do this for you. And that's what that song says. And so I thought, okay, if somebody is in a club dancing, how would they hear God speak into their life? Think about the examples Jesus used. When Jesus was talking about the shrewd manager, this was a guy who had defrauded his boss.
Yeah.
And Jesus was using his example to show them how the people of faith should be more cunning about being able to get God's word out to people.
Yeah.
And he talked about the fact that this is a guy who he thought. Now, Jesus was not encouraging anybody defrauding anybody. He took a very secular situation and used it to make a point for the increase of the kingdom of God.
Right.
That song speaks about love. It speaks about pushing God push. The song is not about God at all, but it speaks about love from the perspective of how far would one go. And what does the Bible say? The Bible says that even you who do not know how to love, if your child asks you for an egg, would you give them a snake? So the point God is making to us is that your love is a limited love. But my love extends beyond that. So if a limited human being is talking about the extent to which they would go
for someone
because of their love for somebody else, how much more will God do? And that was the point of that sermon.
Right.
But I used that song because now, for whatever it's worth, if anybody goes to a club and they start playing that song, but in the past, they wouldn't even translate it that way. They wouldn't even think about God at all. So we need, as Christians, to look outside of the box. You know, Paul talked about bringing people from the known to the unknown.
Yeah.
And what was he saying in Corinthians? You're saying, these are your gods. That's who you know.
Yeah.
But let me tell you about my
The
God.
unknown God, yeah.
So that you see that truly all along, you are worshiping my God, you are just not aware. So as Christians, we need to really start asking ourselves, are we just preaching to the choir, or do we really want to bring people into the kingdom of God?
Yeah.
Because it seems as if the objective is just to stay safe and stay within the boundaries that we know, but not extend to try and draw anybody in. There are people for whom that song did not speak to, and that sermon did not speak to, and that's perfectly fine. Even Jesus. So many people he didn't speak to.
Yeah.
The rich young ruler, what did he say? He just walked away from him. So I never had an expectation. I don't have an expectation that because I preached it, and because it was new and revolutionary, everybody should buy it. But there were many people for whom it really spoke to. People who came to me and said, because of you, and because of you using this song, my life has been changed. And the Bible says if one, just one, finds God, the whole of heaven rejoices. Yeah. So it's not a thing I'm even looking for a new song.
I'll give you one.
You give me one. You know, let's as Christians stop ostracizing people because they don't look like us, they don't behave like us. Let us find ways to use people's own circumstances to draw them into the kingdom of God.
You know, the amazing thing to me when I watched the video was the choir. The way they were singing the song, they knew all the words. I was like, did they know you were going to use the song?
We did it the day before.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, I went to them and I mean, you know, this when you are ministering, you don't minister in a vacuum.
Right.
So I went to them and I said, look, this is an idea I have. You guys are young. What do you think? And they were like, yeah. This is how we would draw people in. So it wasn't just me ministering, it was them ministering as well. And so we sat down and we said, okay, we are ultimately using the song, but there are certain aspects of the song we want to change. Okay. Because we just didn't want to say certain things. So what can we change in the song? So we agreed on the things we are going to change. And I mean, it's funny because Tenny herself wrote a message to me.
Oh, she did?
She said it's beautiful. That's what she said.
Wow.
This is beautiful. You know, so I don't think she sang it as a gospel song. Yeah. But you see, if we'd always talk about spiritual warfare, if the children of God can take what they call a secular song, an evil song, a demonic song, if you will, and convert it to bring people to God, is it not a victory for God? Why would we throw away when we say we want spiritual warfare? That was a spiritual battle. And we want every soul that came to Christ because they don't listen to gospel music, but they listen to hip life. And because they heard that sermon and now started to see that, wow, God will cross a bridge for me. God will slap police for me. Why do we say, well, destroy my enemies for me? Is it not the slapping of the police? He's my advocate in the court. Is that not the advocacy? So let's contextualize it so that those who don't see God in a particular way will start to see God that, wow, me too, I can access him.
Amazing. Do you find that people think you're a very relatable priest? Especially the young people.
I hear that all the time. Oh, she said she's posted it.
Yeah, she said it.
I hear that all the time, and I'm glad they find me relatable, but it makes me sad that they don't find clergy, priesthood, men or women of God relatable, because we should be relatable. Yeah. I mean, Jesus, from what we read of him, was a pretty everyday guy. I mean, you could reach him, you could access him. You know,
he had no bodyguards.
He didn't have bodyguards. You know, he was. Yeah, the disciples at some point were bodyguarding him small, but at least regular people could reach him. And I think that as priests, as clergy, I find that most of us are accessible. I think it's just the novelty of a woman Orthodox priest and being a bit more you. So anyway, you've got it now, right?
Yes.
So, yeah.
Frimpoma, let me read it. She says, are you a graduate of a tertiary institution and eager to be workplace ready and to be employable? Would you like a safe space to figure out what your next move should be? Please call 055-141440 for more details. So if anyone wants to apply to the Equitas Foundation,
just call that number.
You just call that number, 055-1414-1414140.
Yes,
right.
1414140. 055-1414140.
I remember
call
that
it
number.
And let's work with you and help you out.
Okay. And you are taking only people who are first generation university graduates?
No. University graduates who are
just
struggling.
In general.
I mean, if you're unemployed, you're university graduates, you can't figure out what you're going to do next, come and see us. Yes, we target first generation university graduates. Our target age generally is between 18 and 30. But, come to us. You come and let's talk. Okay.
Thank you so much for coming on the Women Lately Show.
God bless you. Thank you very much.
Amen.
You're doing an amazing job. This for me is like a total dream come true, because I remember us sitting here talking to the station, trying to figure it out, and for it to have matured into what it is today is it's God. So thank you too for your work.
By the way, how long have you been on radio? Way longer, right?
I started radio in 2010 on Sunny. Yeah, remember I used to have full gospel hour.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and then it became the businessman's voice, and then I started Asasi. This is our 4th year at Asasi Radio. Yeah. So June will be exactly 4 years at Asasi Radio. So I've been, and I'm on City, but the city, the City one is actually, so it's the same businessman's voice, but it moved from Sunny to City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm still doing that.
So you do live or pre-recorded?
Some of it is live, some of it is pre-recorded, but Asasi is live. Asasi is live every Sunday through to Thursday. Wow. At 5 a.m. in Kumasi, that's 98.5.
Okay. We are going to be in the studio again next week, same time. I've enjoyed talking to my friend Akua. I still don't do the Reverend Akua. I have to check myself.
Me and you, dear.
I have to check myself. But I wish you the very best in everything you do. When Equitas is ready to come to Kumasi, let us know.
Yes.
Let Orange FM know, and then we'll know how to support you.
Thank you very much.
My name, as always, Francisca Taylor. Good afternoon.
Talk to me nice.